thinking about anything else. If you find it hard to do, don't be disappointed. Now imagine that you are collecting all of your discomfort, all of your tension, any negativity within your mind. You're going to collect all of that together, and as you exhale, all of that negativity leaves you in the form of like a gray smoke. It leaves you entirely, it just floats far away and disappears. And now, as you take a breath in, imagine that you are inhaling white, peaceful light. That the white, peaceful light permeates you. It's warm. Feels good. It's relaxing. It's the warm white light of wisdom. And now I invite you to open your eyes, and in the teal hymnal, 1009, when I breathe in,
I invite you to remain seated and sing with me. Number 1009. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, I'll breathe in peace when I breathe out. I'll breathe out love when I breathe in. I'll breathe in peace when I breathe out. I'll breathe out love. When I breathe
Our reading comes from Buddha Shakyamuni. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him, like a shadow that never leaves him. As Ted mentioned earlier, I have been a Unitarian Universalist for over 20 years. And I was drawn to the church originally by its 7 principles, the foundation on which this spiritual home is built. Now, for those of you who might be new to the UU Church, and it sounded like there might have been 1 or 2 people, the way I describe the 7 Unitarian Universalist principles is first by saying that they don't describe a belief system, they describe a way of being in the world, respectful and active, concerned and inquisitive. They say that we respect the worth and dignity of individuals, that we believe in the democratic process, that we take care of the environment, and that peace is the goal. And of course, I am summarizing. My own personal favorite, I was so happy to see it up there in the corner, is number 4. We affirm and promote the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And since becoming a member of First Unitarian in Los Angeles, which is a bilingual congregation, I have learned to say, número 4, la búsqueda libre y responsable para la verdad y el sentido. And I think it's even prettier in Spanish. This is the principle that says we are supposed to find our spiritual way, to learn from other traditions and other faiths and other thought leaders. This principle says the answer isn't easy, and maybe the answer isn't even known. It's a search. And we should be free to undertake it in whatever responsible way we want, by attending other churches, worshiping nature, talking to God, praying, or meditating. Now, I'm not going to tell you that because of number 4, I personally have been a great pursuer of all things spiritual, or that I have rigorously studied world religions, because I have not. But there is one personal and spiritual practice that I was interested in for a really long time, and I did want to pursue, and that was meditation. I wanted to learn how to meditate. I heard a lot about it. You know, I heard it could help you concentrate and relax and focus. It would make you better looking. You'd earn more money. It seemed like there are all kinds of reasons to try meditation. And so our 4th principle says, you know, go for it. So I did. Now, my usual approach to trying new things is to read about them first. I like to take the how-to manual and let me see how much I can figure out from that. So I got a hold of a few books on meditation, because there's no shortage of those on the market, you may have noticed. And I tried following the instructions. So everything I read, that the first thing you do is you find a quiet place, and you sit down, and no fancy postures are really required. You just sit up straight, and you close your eyes, and you clear your mind. Sounded easy. So I went into our living room, and I closed the blinds to minimize the distractions. And then I put the dog out. I thought that might be a good idea. And I sat down, and I got comfortable, and I closed my eyes. Okay, go. Clear your mind. Go ahead. Just stop thinking. And I sat there waiting for my mind to clear, but it didn't do that. It didn't clear. As a matter of fact, instead I noticed I had one thought after another, and sometimes I had several at the same time. Have you ever just tried clearing your mind so it's completely blank? You probably just gave it a shot a minute ago, right? I tried and I tried. After a while I thought, well, I'll use my imagination, and I will imagine a great broom sweeping my mind clear of all the thoughts. But of course the broom was a thought, and the sweeping was a thought. I couldn't stop thinking. And then I noticed there were noises going on everywhere, and I had all these thoughts. This was much harder than I had imagined. So I tried it several times. Close the blinds, put the dog out, sit down, be quiet, close your eyes, go. And every time I had exactly the same results. So I thought, well, how does anybody actually do this? So I was complaining about it to a friend who said, maybe you shouldn't do this alone. Maybe you should try a guided meditation. I think that's what they're for. Oh, okay. So I figured it hadn't worked the way I was trying it. I thought maybe I'd try something else. And so then, of course, you know what I did next. I went to Google, and I Googled guided meditation, of course. And what Google told me about was a nearby Buddhist meditation center. It's called the Kadampa Buddhist Meditation Center, with open sessions. Everyone welcome, come on down. So I went. The meditation room was a clean, light space presided over by a nearly life-size statue of Buddha Shakyamuni, who is the Buddha we most often think of when we think of Buddhas. And he was surrounded by other golden statues of other Buddha figures. It was decorated with flowers and clear bowls of water and bright drawings and wrapped chocolates. It was wonderful and confusing to look at. But I knew the fourth principle of this church was behind me. I'm on a search. It's free. Have a seat. See what happens. Then a bright-spirited young teacher named Heather came into the room and led a small group of us in meditation. So we sat in straight-back chairs, just about like you are. We weren't twisted into pretzel shapes on the floor. She said, close your eyes. And she said, focus all your attention on your breathing. And she said, notice your breath changes. That when you inhale, it's cool, and when you exhale, it's warmer. And then she said, see if you can just concentrate on breathing in and out, noticing that it's cool and warm, and cool and warm, and see if you can do it for 3 breaths. And I did all that. It does not happen right away, but after several visits, I found with the guidance, I began to be able to do this. I was learning how to meditate. So I've been attending Kadampa Buddhist classes ever since. So they're all guided meditation sessions interspersed with Buddhist teachings, which are called the Dharma. In his lifetime, Buddha Shakyamuni gave 84,000 teachings altogether, a body of work which, if nothing else, makes you appreciate the term Buddhist scholar. Imagine mastering 84,000 teachings. That's a lot of teachings. But until recently, most of his teachings haven't been particularly accessible to those of us in the West. In fact, until recently, most of the accomplished Buddhist scholars didn't speak English, and they didn't head west. But about 40 years ago, a Buddhist monk from Tibet, whose name was Geshe Kelsang Gyatso, did something unusual for a Tibetan Buddhist monk. He moved to England. He moved to the Lake District, to the town of Ulverston, into a monastery which at the time was in disrepair and inhabited by an eclectic population of mostly hippies. And Geshe Kelsang, who was a quiet, modest, trim man, arrived and went inside, sat down, and in broken English started teaching. And people gathered. They liked him, this quiet, humble man from Tibet who didn't yet speak much English. And they listened, and they invited him to stay. Geshe Kelsang Gyatso went on to found the new Kadampa Buddhist tradition to bring Buddhist teachings to the West. He's written 25 books about the teachings, and he's opened more than 1,100 centers throughout the world. And this is the Buddhist tradition I found in my free and responsible search for meditation classes. So I thought I would share with you this morning a few of Buddha's teachings that I've been learning, teachings that, in important ways, are in alignment with Unitarian Universalist values. But they also deliver the ideas in some unexpected ways. Teachings, frankly, that have rocked my world. So imagine again that clean, lovely, light room that I described with the golden statues and the chocolates and the pervasive sense of peace and happiness throughout. And all that may lead you to expect a happy, uplifting message. But the first of the teachings I want to share with you instead is this one. I may die today. I could. So could you. We will certainly die, and we have no idea when. Therefore, I may die today. Happens all the time. All over the world, some people got up this morning, and they weren't expecting to die today, but they're going to, right? An accident, a heart attack, who knows? They got up this morning thinking what they'd be doing tomorrow or next week, but then there's no tomorrow or no next week. And when that happens, of course, and we know them, we're shocked and saddened, and we're compassionate, and we are reminded about how vulnerable we all are. And then we go back to planning what we're going to do tomorrow and next week. In fact, I'm sure no one in this room got up this morning thinking, I might die today, right? If anything, that might seem like a gloomy way to start the day, right? I want to get up and live. I don't want to get up and die. But when we think that we might die today, we become actively grateful for our human lives. We notice things we normally take for granted, like we're comfortable and we're well fed. And we're grateful for that. We're not passively grateful, like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not like that, desperate looking person on the street there. But instead, we're actively grateful. We notice that we're lucky to have advantages that billions of people in the world never even dream of. So we shake off laziness and we get busy making our lives meaningful. We stop thinking we have tons of time to be a better person or to do the things that we keep saying someday about. Because no one thinks today's it. If anything, most of us probably think we have lots of time left. My own mother lived to be 92, so I have longevity on my side, right? If I'm anything like my mom, I have tons of time, so I can put off learning and doing and trying, right? That's more the way we think. So I have tons of time. Or do I? I may die today. It's the second in a series of 21 meditations that Buddha laid out to be done in sequence. The first is, I am grateful for my rare and meaningful human life. And the second is, I may die today. Something else I learned from Buddha's teachings that really rocked my world is that I have no idea how to be happy. In fact, most of us have no idea how to be happy. And that's why so many people are so unhappy so much of the time. In fact, what I thought happiness was, is so not it. I always thought that happiness was a state of momentary pleasure, like driving a new car off the lot, or winning a prize, or landing a new job, or a promotion. And so by definition, happiness was this fleeting state. We all like being happy, sure is nice, too bad it never lasts. So I thought that happiness came from things and situations, something as small as taking a bite of my favorite ice cream, or as big as a 2-week vacation in Tahiti. But when either one of those comes to an end, there goes happiness. We wait for the next vacation, the next bowl of ice cream, or those things that made us happy, they turn on us. We get tired of the new car. It gets old and it breaks down and we can't wait to get rid of it. We're sick of the job we were so excited to land. Or we're disappointed by the ice cream because that first bite was really great, but that last one too many. Now I don't feel well. What Buddha teaches about happiness is that it isn't a series of fleeting moments that we create and string together and then try to hang on to. Happiness, Buddha says, is a persistent state of being that all of us have the ability to get to. And it isn't found in day-to-day life. There's a Sanskrit word for it, day-to-day life, that comes up a lot in our classes at the Kadampa Meditation Center. Many of you probably know this word. The word is samsara. It means day-to-day existence, samsara. It's where most of us are most of the time. In samsara, we're knocking things off our to-do list, we're striving, we're being disappointed, we're doing stuff. In samsara, we're physically uncomfortable, we're anxious, busy, stressed, we're wishing for relief. Samsara is our regular day-to-day life. And most of us are looking for happiness in our everyday existence in samsara. But it isn't there. So if samsara isn't where we find happiness, then, where is it? A Buddhist monk whose name is Mathieu Ricard, and yes, he's French. He was once a renowned molecular biologist. And then he became a Buddhist monk. He says happiness is a persistent state of being that underlies all emotional states. He describes it as a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. And he should know, because he has been named the happiest man in the world by scientists who have been researching brain function. So you see, if you want to find out how happy someone is, you measure the strength and activity in the left prefrontal cortex of the brain, because that's where happiness activity occurs in the brain. So researchers who measure prefrontal cortex activity announced a few years ago that they had used this method with electrodes measuring activity to measure happiness in a whole variety of people from all walks of life, and they proclaimed Buddhist monk Mathieu Ricard to be the happiest man in the world because his left prefrontal cortex readings are off the charts. So what was he thinking about? Don't you want to know? How does he achieve this? By meditating on compassion. So Buddha says compassion is the key to happiness. And so does the happiest man in the world. It makes sense. If you direct your concentration to the plight of others and you wish them loving kindness, you'll be happier. If you want to be unhappy, focus on your own plights, on the job you didn't get, or your aching back, or how disappointed you are in your children or parents or whoever you're disappointed in. But if you want to be happy, focus on the plights of others and send them loving kindness. Send loving kindness to people at war on both sides. To your next door neighbor. Send loving kindness to the oppressed and the oppressors. The way to inner peace and happiness is by practicing compassion for everyone, without thinking that even oppressors are suffering. One last thing I want to share that I've learned from Buddhist teachings, a teaching which I find especially close to Unitarian Universalist values, and it is this. Everyone else is just like me. I'm no different from you, and you're no different from the person sitting next to you, because we all want the same things. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. So in UU terms, every human has worth and dignity. Strangers aren't just strangers. They're human beings, and we should see them as that, as people who matter. But there's one thing in Buddhist teachings about compassion and how we view others as like ourselves, and this is the part that surprised me. Not only is everyone else just like me, but everyone else is just as important as I am. What everyone else wants is just as important as what I want. That's not the way I live all the time. It's not how we usually see things. We usually see as what we want as the most important thing, and what you want is either not important or not very important to me. So what I care about is important. Example, if your father is ill, I might say to you, it's too bad about your dad, right? And that's very important to you, that your father's ill, but it's not really important to me, so I might say, too bad about your dad, gotta go. When you consider there are countless beings in the world, and all of them are concerned about something. All of them want something. And they too are thinking that what they want matters most. Countless beings with that same thought. Then what I want among billions and billions of people can't possibly be as important as I think it is. So seeing things this way elevates the concerns and desires of others into view. What they want matters, and it matters a lot. So we see them more clearly, and then we value them genuinely. So the Buddhists call this equalizing self and others. In our UU principle, we say equity. We affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We promote equity. We believe that happiness and suffering of others are important. You can probably tell this has been a fascinating journey so far, which I might never have discovered without the encouragement of our fourth principle. It wasn't just luck that brought me to the Unitarian Church or to Buddhist teachings. It was karma. The accumulation of deeds, both good deeds and bad deeds, throughout countless lives that give rise to what happens to us now and in the future. So the principle of karma would say that somewhere along the way, I must have accumulated enough good deeds in the countless lives I have lived, lives I no longer remember, but I must have accumulated enough good deeds so that I was able to discover Buddha's teachings and to come to this wonderful church and to be here this morning with all of you. Thank you.